Hi there, welcome to Open Roads, a show where we take walks through open and transitional areas in games, doing a bit of sightseeing in a virtual tour of sorts. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We talk about all sorts of things here, mainly focusing on the smaller aspects of games and movies, celebrating the mundane and minute. As always, grab yourself a tea or a coffee and sit back as we take a walk together. Today we're here in the Rift, a region in Skyrim's southeast. I thought we could start at Froaky's hut, an old hunter who lives here with his grandson, the kid having lost his parents in Helgen. We can get a nice view of the Rift up here. Its autumnal tree line, always throwing leaves through the air. The place is filled with lovely warm browns, beiges and golds. It would be quite welcoming, if it weren't for the multitude of creatures and bandits that inhabit the woods. Descending the hill, we should watch our footing, with hundreds of loose stones sitting on the ground, threatening to take our ankles with them. The jaggedness of Skyrim's landscape is apparent in the Rift. Rocks jut all around, and the land seems almost to be sliding northward. At the bottom, we can find an old dragon burial mound. A lonely place, creating a clearing in the trees in which a deer stalks about, likely munching on nearby bushes. There's these remnants of old Nordic pillars which have been eaten by the earth. Perhaps the burial mound once featured more architecture around its perimeter. Maybe a path of these pillars which led to the gravesite. A trail for pilgrims, priests and historians to follow. Our own trail leads us down to the west, something having caught the eye from the mound. Here sits an old dwarven ruin, now occupied by a small group of bandits. After dispatching them, we can take a look around. Of course, the most prominent feature of this place that warrants inspection being this old sundial, which sits steadfast in the middle of the ruin. Despite being a small outfit, the bandits were doing quite well for themselves. Tons of supplies lie about the old place, likely from raids on travellers and caravans passing through the region. They must have planned on setting up here for at least a few days, for they've bothered to set up traps to signal of any intruders. I wonder if they realised the true nature of their newfound camp, leading down into an ancient forge. One thing that can be criticised about their banditry is just how close they've decided to set up to this Imperial camp. It's not even 100 meters away. Here, the soldiers keep an eye out for stormcloaks, patrolling the perimeter on guard duty. Some sleep in their tents, perhaps having taken the night watch. Others nurse their wounds in a medical tent, sustaining damage during skirmishes against the rebels. Their smith toils away, repairing their equipment in the field, allowing them to stay in fighting shape. And their commander stands in his tent, poring over maps, strategizing on which move to take. Their camp sits just off the road, tucked away behind this massive cliff. A nice hidden spot, but one that doesn't offer many avenues of escape. They would need to remain diligent in their surveillance of the surrounding area. They aren't ones for chat, So instead we can head towards the road, passing some more old ruins as we go. In this pillar, someone has stored some hide armour and an old book. Perhaps a thief offloaded them after plucking the armour from a mark. It's a strange place to store armour otherwise, exposed to the elements. Now on the road proper, we can begin to make our way eastward, towards the general direction of Riften. It's a very nice area, with the wind blowing softly as we go. The path is flanked by these lovely stone walls, having withered over the years. It's an extra bit of visual aid, as the path is often overtaken by dirt, which sometimes buries it completely. Certainly useful for finding the road in darker hours. I'd imagine it would be quite easy to get lost in the rift. The countless trees beginning to look very similar, should you find yourself deep within the forests. There's an abandoned cart here on the side of the road. I wonder if a farmer has placed this here for later. Or perhaps this is a remnant of a bandit raid, they finding little use for the cart itself. Crossing this bridge, we can come across a fellow traveller. He was an interesting guy, had a lot of strange things to say. I wished him well and continued on, leaving him to ponder over the lake. There's this pond here, fed by a small stream. It must be drained from somewhere underground, for it doesn't seem to be swelling up and running down to the road. It must be the local water source for this dwelling. Here at Sarethi Farm, they raise animals, grow gourds, potatoes and nernroot, which seems to be something of a specialty to them. And their business must hold some sort of importance to the local government, for they've been allowed a sentry to defend the place. Though with the corrupt nature of much of Riften's business world, this guard could simply be here to survey the goings-on of the farm, reporting back to whomever has found an interest in this place. But the sun is dipping low, and the shadows are lengthening. So let's park ourselves up here by this lone pine overlooking the farm. You wouldn't be faulted for thinking the sky had been flipped, as the canopy is giving the falling sun a run for its money, the only indication of a separation in this golden duel being the immense silhouette of the throat of the world, carving its way up into the heavens. Morning comes, and we can restock for the journey by stealing some gourds. And we're on the road again, passing a hunter who's had his boots stolen. Cresting this hill, we can find an old fortress that peers out towards Windhelm. Some orcs have made their home here, and they're not keen on receiving visitors. They've got plenty of food and ale, with books to pass the time. Finding some trophies around the place, it looks like they had planned to stay here for a while, rather than it being a temporary camp. I wonder if they had to battle other bandits or guardsmen to take the tower, or if they found it already completely empty. It looks like they take supper up at the top of the tower, under this canopy. From here, they get a good view of the surrounding forest to spot any potential assailants. You can't really see the road, however, so it's not the best position to locate passing merchants who could be relieved of their gear. Not unlike the Imperials, it seems these bandits have chosen this location to hide. The sun hangs confidently in the sky now as we continue to ascend. You have to wonder how these trees deal with the wind that would blow up the mountainside. Eastern Skyrim is a bit of a basin, so maybe this place is somewhat protected from harsher weather. Here we can come across a butterfly colony who flutter about the undergrowth, searching for nectar to feast on. Perhaps the soil here promotes flower growth, which has allowed the butterflies to thrive. We can finally reach the top of the incline to find a giant gap in the earth, through which a dirt road has been formed. It could be a developed roadway, or a desire path, padded into the earth after years of transit. It's a pretty convenient pass, no doubt used by traders between Windhelm and Riften. This gap could have been created by tectonic movement that caused the cliffside to fall away. Or perhaps it was eroded by rainfall that has funneled through it in times of heavy downpour. There is a small pond at the base of the gap which lends credence to that theory. I'm sure this region sees its fair share of landslides. Travellers will need to be careful. I love how dense the forest feels as we walk back here through the rift proper. From within the tangle of bark, we can spy another ruin of Dwemer. This one is much smaller, perhaps an old shrine of sorts. It appears someone has retrofitted it to be their own. There's not much indication around as to which being this shrine is for. There are necromancers prowling the area, so this likely belongs to them. The architecture of the great arches is awesome, and have their silence accentuated by the wind blowing softly through the trees, making the place feel peaceful, but forgotten. Back on the road, we can pass one of our first signs of built-up civilization as we pass through the small village of Shor's Stone, whose economy seems built on their mining and smithing industries. And just beyond sits Shor's watchtower, which peers over the northeastern flank of the rift. It's much newer than the previous watchtower we visited, constructed with wood rather than stone. Inside is a grisly sight, the Riften guards having been attacked and killed in a raid by Imperial soldiers, perhaps the ones we found earlier. They had food and drink in the tower, but no bedding, so the guards must have been deployed from Riften for each rotation, returning there after their watch was done. The Imperials haven't capitalized on taking the tower, so perhaps this was just a reminder to Riften that the Empire's forces are right on their border, ready to attack at any time. Unless the Imperials just wanted to look at this floating tree. Shor's Stone is beset on all sides, for just to the south we can arrive at Fort Greenwall, which has been taken over by more bandits. The road passes through the fort, so it seems to act as a sort of checkpoint between Shor's Stone and Riften. With it having been overrun, Shor's Stone is almost completely cut off from Riften. Maybe these bandits were running a toll racket, accepting pay to allow travellers and merchants through the blockade, rather than attacking them outright. They're pretty well equipped, with their own smithy and plenty of weapons. Perhaps Riften lacks the resources to retake the fort at this time, already dealing with the Imperials on their doorstep. The forest thins out a bit as we make our way past the fort and towards Riften. And rounding this corner, we're met with 3 more watchtowers, all identical to the one we found just down the hill. This must be a highly trafficked area, or an old weak spot in Riften's defences that they've reinforced with the towers. It seems they want to push an invading army against the cliff face, smothering them with arrows and other projectiles from the towers. More so a preventative, forcing enemies to choose a different point of attack. Finally, we can come upon the capital of the hold, Riften. Old mossy walls rising around the lakeside town. We can't stay for long, but rest assured we'll be taking a very close look at the city soon. Finding a local tavern, we can stay the night, listening to the various dealings and hushed conversations of the patrons. I can almost feel the eyes on my coin purse. We'd better not stay long. The weather doesn't seem to have held up as we leave the city in the morning. The sky dark and dreary, with heavy fog shrouding the forest. Almost as if the stain of the city has come with us, souring the country air. Hopefully, some distance will put things right. We can pass Snowshod Farm, who already have their mill running in these early hours. The place seems to have an inordinate amount of guards. Perhaps it's a target for bandit attacks, or much like Sarethi, the denizens of Riften are simply keeping an eye on their property. From the farm, we can spot a Nordic ruin protruding from the side of the mountain. We're here to do some sightseeing after all, so we can make our way towards it, slowly coming up to the snow line, causing the trees to fall away and the wind to pick up. There's another burial mound at the base of the ruin, the two likely related in some way. Should the dragon become resurrected, it will likely roost in the ruins. This is Lost Tongue Overlook. It has a word wall and a shrine, which is being utilised by more necromancers, who've raised skeletons about the place. With this cage, it seems the necromancers were kidnapping people from the region, bringing them here for dark rituals. Perhaps this is why there are more guards stationed at the farms, some of the local workers having disappeared in the night. Below the ruin, we can come into this valley, which has been carved by this river. Someone lived here once upon a time, but their home is now a raging fire. This must have been done recently. It looks like the inhabitant was inspired by their necromancer neighbours and made an attempt to summon a flame atronach, judging by the scroll we can find by their charred body. I can't tell if it went really badly or really well. The weather isn't going the way I'd hoped, but the soft rain falling around us as we walk through the forest is quite nice. The canopy catching most of it, leaving us with only a few stray droplets. The ground grows muddy and damp, this being a mostly empty riverbed. There are old skulls and skeletons of animals that may have fallen in over the years, or been washed from elsewhere. And this goat, who wanted to show off his gymnastic ability. This bridge indicates that the river does get quite deep. Maybe it awaits snowmelt, which will fill it to capacity once more. Coming to the last leg of our journey, we pass through the southern forests of the Rift. It's quite lonely, with not many people living out here. We do pass the odd patrol of Stormcloaks and a random drug dealer who wanted to sell me skooma. The Rift feels tucked away from the world, the trees acting as a sort of blanket. Despite the bandits and creatures, it does feel quite safe and peaceful. On the side of the road here is another Nordic ruin, which has collapsed almost completely. A small camp sits below, a fire still burning. According to the journal, some folk here were trying to excavate the place in search of discoveries and treasures. I wonder what became of them. With that, we can climb back up the hill towards Froaky's cabin, passing the dragon mound as we go. Thanks for coming on this walk. The Rift is an awesome area, and it's nice to just take a moment to appreciate it. As always, if there's any locations, areas, or levels in games you'd like us to take a walk through, let us know in the comments. Shout out to our members: Thane Krios 8, Anna A2640, Naj Kula, Renee, Patrick Connaughton 4171, Speed of the Earth, Nathan Armstrong 6085, and Aiden 839. Thank you all so much for your support. Stay tuned for more open roads, oddities, odysseys, observations, opinions, and live streams. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.